As we draw down the curtains to the year 2020, the question remains, what would you think about when the year 2020 is mentioned? When sport is brought under the microscope, we will think of how this living, breathing juggernaut was brought to a halt, was stopped dead in its tracks by this thing that we are still making sense of. It was the year that athletes, for all their training, for all their might, for all their ability to break records, to defy physical boundaries, were also stopped dead. Leagues were shut, tournaments were postponed, some were cancelled, and all of us were made to stay home at one point or the other. But sport, like life, continued. It persevered, and here we are on the cusp of yet another year. We now look back and take stock of what has been an extraordinary sporting year, unlike any other. From the beginning, when Kwesi Appiah was sacked as coach of the Blackstars, to recently, where we had other things happening in the Premier League and people taking in 5 goals and more. From Ghana to Africa to the rest of the world, we have the stories of deaths to those we idolized, of those who previously defied the physical boundaries of their very existence, to those who have now shown that there's life, and with life there's hope. Welcome to PM Express, another sporting edition in a year where we've had very pivotal editions of PM Express for sport. And I'm Gary Al Smith. We'll be taking you to 12 months of sport in a year unlike any other. Stay with us, and this is your show, as well as mine and ours. Welcome again to PM Express. We are taking over like COVID-19 took over the sporting world today. We are serving you an hour or more, most likely, of sporting goodness. 12 months as we run the rule over what has been the good, the very ugly, and the somewhat in between. I'm here with Carl Tufuo, who already, in typical Carl Tufuo fashion, started the show before the show started. So apparently in my introduction, I pronounced the word Pivotal as pivotal, the American way, and he says it's pivotal. So that is Carl, and his living, breathing evidence of his nickname, the truth, says it as it is, and he told me that it's pivotal. I'll get my Google to tell me which is the correct pronunciation, but I suspect I'm right. Hi, Carl.
Hi, and I suspect you're wrong. It's like schedule and schedule.
Yes.
The Americans will say schedule, but schedule.
So why is one wrong and one right?
Yeah, because the Americans tell you that, so how do you spell neighbor?
N-E-I-G-H-B-O-U-R. No, because of a British stock.
But the Yanks take away the U.
They take. But if you go on Microsoft Word and you are typing anything from whatever to whatever, I mean, most of our systems are, takes out the U.
There's an option there.
Yes.
If you go to language review and then you change to UK, you get it. So there.
What's the correct spelling for stabilize? Is it S or Z?
It's S. It's the Americans who are too lazy and
again.
Strategize. Anyway, it's another.
Very bombastic start to the 2020 year in review in sport. Hello again. You can join us on Twitter with the hashtag JoySports or follow us at JoySportsGH. Let's have a conversation on this very interesting year. So this is the plan, really. We take the topics month by month. We take the big ones, and then we allow you to give us your thoughts on them as well. Does this sound like a plan? At a point, we'll open the phone lines to let you rant or celebrate or give us a bit of your mind on whether you agree on what we are saying or not. We'll be joined also by 2 of Joy Sports journalists, Hans Mensah Andor and Oreku Andor. Oreku Ampofo, Hans Mensah Andor and Oreku Ampofo. Now, at any point, if some of our Joy Sports guys want to come into the show, we'll just call them on phone to give us some perspective on certain areas where, where the topics or they led our reportage on as well. So we might do that. And if you want to call in at a certain point, please let us know on our Twitter and let's have a discussion. Let's have a chat. So Carl, let me start you off briefly by saying that if I asked you to put 2020 in one word, what would it be?
One word.
One word.
Disaster.
So that's my first question for you, wherever you are as well. Our WhatsApp line should be somewhere. And if you can hit us up on Twitter, I would love that. But how would you describe 2020? He says it's a disaster. And I have always chosen the word strange, right? So that's how I'll start you off. Hans and Oriku, when they come on, I'll ask them as well. But this has been the year where so much has happened, but so much has also not happened. It's the first time in living memory that much of the world was actively shut down. At a point, scientists said that when they looked at the Earth from space, they could see large swathes of this landmass actually breathing and still. At a point, they said that what used to be carbon footprints and places with fires and evidence that showed that man was busy, showed that whole cities did not have the smoke fog, they did not have any activity going on, and the temperature actually cooled on the Earth for a while. It has not happened in a very, very long time. But that is where we begin with the news that Ghana Football Association started with a bang. Kedu Kraku came into office, as you know, with an election that saw him sweep to power and beat, notably George Afriyie. And then, as things got into gear, the resistance of all the appointments had to be that had to do with the Blackstars. It was widely reported, widely speculated, and it did indeed happen in January that Kwesi Appiah was shown the door. And that's where we begin. Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, it's something that he should have realized was coming. And was he really shown the door? I think it was a case of his contract was allowed to expire and then he moved on. But there was no way, if I had been in that position, there's no way I'd have maintained. I'd want to start on a clean sheet, and I suspect that that's what Kurt did. And it's normal, it's natural.
Kwesi Appiah took it very well. I mean, there was no acrimony about it. He just,
No acrimony because the contract had been seen to it.
Yeah.
Whatever was owed him is where the problem is. You need
Exactly.
to pay that sort of thing. But apart from that, but that's not his nature, is it? He's a quiet chap, he, as the British would say, so he'll go about it in his own way. I know of others who really are bombastic and would have pulled the whole house down and probably got their money by now. I'm not too sure whether Kwesi has got everything by now, but if he has, hallelujah. But when you get into that job, I think you have an idea that things will be delayed. And I saw a comment by Charles, my very good friend Charles Akono, saying that he will not be distracted by some of the rubbish that's going on. And to think that he hasn't even been paid, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
What country are we?
We'll come to that. We have to take it step by step so that in a very chronological order, we don't jump the dates as well. So if we have something on Kwesi Appiah, just to jog your memory, and this show will be to do that as well. Kwesi Appiah sacked. If we have any visuals, let's jog our memories on what exactly happened in January. Okay, we are not getting that at the moment. However, what we do know is that in the same month, and very quickly, just so that there was no vacuum, Charles Akono was given the job as coach of the Blackstars as well. It came with a lot of its own narrative and whatnot, and we'll come to that in a bit. But the Ghana Premier League got started at the tail end of December 2019, and things were jogging on very nicely until we saw that, interestingly, things had not pretty much changed from before the GFA elections, the normalization. It was business as usual because people thought that when the GFA came, it meant that we were going to have new pitches, new balls, and everything was going to be wiped clean. And they realized that you don't build a system like that. Things were going to take time to move.
Gary, I really would have been surprised if that's what people were thinking. It tells me that the people don't live on this earth. They're probably living somewhere in Saturn or Uranus or some other planet, because clearly the GFA itself are not the custodians of the stadium, as it were. Okay, so what they have is what they use, and for me, I didn't expect them to do anything new. More so when they were certain impediments that we have now seen emerging with all manner of people. But simply put, the FA family is not one big happy family. And so, whether Kurt liked it or not, whether the sweeping votes came or not, there were others who were not going to. Look at Anfield, and then where I had played Accra Stadium with these patches. Are they serious? Till this day, you have it. That's the problem. You know the realities on the ground. So face them and know that at the end of the day, it will take time. We may, I'm not saying we will, we may get there, but it will take time. It can't be done in a year, it can't be done in 2 years. In fact, those who are thinking, we're probably dreaming. I mean, you and I are on certain platforms, and people keep on oohing and eyeing about the achievements of sports ministers and deputy sports ministers and trying to compare A, B to C. I find that ridiculous. If the government of the day at the time has not got money, and so can give you 22 million cedis for a budget, then what the heck do you expect to achieve?
Yeah, so comments already coming in, and what we've done is that we've put some of the comments out there ahead of time, and so we'll be reading them as they go. On the Ghana Premier League starting, and lots of fans expecting new things to happen when it began, or the league started in 2019, in December 2019, right about this time. You know, in the final week, 27, 28, 29th, 2019. Patrick Diaz says, I'm one of those who knew that Rome could not be built in one day. I was expecting the GFA boss and his new administration to come in with measures that will truly bring back the love. 11 months on, I don't think that I have that impression that too much has changed. EA Ghana says, well, as an Arsenal fan, I don't think I have a right to have too much expectation. And so my team, Kotoko, in Ghana as well, did not fill me with confidence, even from back then in December 2019. Indeed, you will recall that we have had some funny things happen in this calendar year, including playing with 10 men each with the Diana Stars. We'll go to that because I think that was in September 2020.
Now the shocking one.
Yes.
I mean,
when Adriana and Asante Kotoko played 10 men.
Are we still living in the prehistoric age? Oh my goodness. I mean, it reminds me, let me give a little bit of history. There was a match.
A little bit of?
History.
That's what
there was a match sometime in, was it 84, 85 there, and it involved Accra Hearts of Oak. And the Juju man, you see, they had lost the first leg 3-0. It was 85, thank you. Giraffes of Senegal. They had lost the first leg 3-0 in Dakar. So they'd come home here. And the Juju man had allegedly told them that they shouldn't shake the hands of the officials. That when they get to the field, they should put 4 eggs at the corner fire. So Hearts come onto the field, and CAF officials and what's the name? Flight Lieutenant Rollins and the rest are shaking, and then they do this. I'm telling you, ask anybody who was old enough. I was there. They do this, they do this. And then...
They didn't shake Chairman Rollins?
Nope, they didn't shake anybody's hands. Then they went and put the 4 eggs there. And what happened? They lost 1-0 in Accra. So it doesn't surprise me when I also hear, because we have so much beliefs in all these prehistoric things. God, move on. I'll tell you, that's why I find it extremely sad that Hearts didn't allow more to continue. I thought it was bringing fresh ideas. And that's why I like Nana Yao Amposa at Kotoko. He's bringing fresh ideas. Let's see the younger guys start coming. Instead of, with all due respect, going to the... And I'm from that school, the old school. I don't want to see them again. They don't have much to offer. Let's see what the young guys can offer.
Right. So the Ghana Premier League, of course, latterly, these are pictures from more recent matches as the 2020 season came to us. We'll see what that brought as well. But some of the interesting results from back then in January were when Hearts of Oak went to Dreams. Dreams had a good team at the time, and this was before the truncation. Hearts of Oak were in a bit of trouble, and so they went to Dreams and won by 1-0. Asante Kotoko were also in some good form. Mediama were again on course to probably, because we'd never know due to the COVID.
No, but we hadn't got to the second round, so it would have been but they were leading at the time. They had, and I think Kotoko were trying to remember exactly where they were. We're not too far off.
No, they weren't.
They had I remember they had a match, and if they won, and a big F, because these days they come and play against what Al Hilal and lose. Come on. But if they had won, they would have gone to just 2 points behind them. So, but it was good. It was good that when that dreaded thing came, it was cancelled, because I'm one of the believers who even thinks that we should stop playing football right now.
We will come to that. Also in January, it was a very packed month, and because we've already done 22 minutes, we'll just be quick about it, was when Kobe Bryant died. That was a difficult one for the sporting world. He was among 9 who died in that helicopter crash, and it's basically ground the sporting world to a halt. When my guys come online, Hans and Eric Wampofo will run our mouths around that one as well. And this, his daughter Gianni, of course.
How many people remember the other 7? Even Gianni, there's a problem. People couldn't remember.
People couldn't remember.
Kobe,
yeah. John.
He was the major star.
John Altobelli, who was a long-time coach in the Bay Area.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's the whole thing was based on Kobe and whatnot. And if you remember the news items, even you guys came on with it. I mean, boom, big one. But you see, it's the American way of doing things. Because remember that a guy who was almost as influential as Kobe also passed.
Yeah.
But that was in football, and because he's not American, so therefore it's not blown to the level, and then the rest subside. But Charlie Kobe's one was serious, because I woke up to that news and I said, wow. I mean, here's a guy who had life energy, and then he's gone. So I'm asking myself, what did he do? But he's left a legacy. That's the key thing. Yeah. A massive legacy. And not only with reference to basketball, but to his handling of the community in which he was staying, to the needy there. So you find out that more people associated with him for his generosity.
And his humanity.
Absolutely.
So these are clips of Kobe Bryant, and obviously, he modeled his game strongly on Michael Jordan. And I remember at the time, we played here on Joynews clips that showed Kobe on one side and Jordan on the other side. And Kobe, unashamedly, unabashedly, and he did it to absolute perfection.
That's why Michael was crying at the funeral.
Yeah.
Giving a eulogy, and I think it caused even Shaq to have tears coming down. And we all know Shaq is a tough.
It's a tough man.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, there, in all his pomp, all his glory, he had rings for days, challenged himself, came back from injury so many times, and just did it and did it and did it, So the reports by the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office provided a clinical but unvarnished look at just how brutal the crash was. It described broken bones, I remember, dismembered body parts, and a stench of the fuel on what remained of the clothing of the burned. So that was Kobe Bryant, and that was in January as well. But life had to go on, and in football, January also means that the transfer window in Europe comes to life. And as you know, twice a year here on Joy News, we bring you shows that bring you everything that happens on the final day. We did bring you the January edition with the key acquisitions being, and remember, this was in January, but it seems already like so long ago. Bruno Fernandes, Man United. Odion Igalo to Man United. Tariq Lamptey, Chelsea to Brighton. Takumi Minamino from RB to Liverpool. Lo Celso to Spurs. Nelson Semedo to Wolves. These were some of the interesting ones as well. And then for the Ghanaian interest, we didn't have much to report. But these were some of the... And if you think about how Bruno Fernandes has taken on like duck to water at United, it seems like so long ago.
I would agree with you, but for me, the sensation for the second part of the season really wasn't Fernandez for me.
Yeah.
Call me biased, but it was Tariq Lamptey.
Okay.
Yes, there's the Ghanaian connection there. But take a look at somebody who Chelsea had ditched, suddenly becoming the most talked about right back, even with all Alexander-Arnold's assist. Mm-hmm. And then playing for a small club like Brighton. Suddenly getting that accolade. I just keep on asking myself, have our people bothered to see his parents? Have our people bothered to find out whether he'll be interested? Because one thing about England is that if you're short in stature, they are a bit wary. So have you bothered to see them? See whether you'll be interested in playing for Ghana?
To be fair to the GFA, they say they have contacted its people.
Well, I hope it's not just contact, Gary,
yeah,
but convincing. It's key. Because for some reason, England now have what we call a plethora of right backs.
Yeah.
And you know them. Trippier, his quality. Trent Alexander-Arnold, his quality. Even Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Not forgetting the old man himself, who's only just 30, Kyle Walker.
Reece James.
Thank you, I've forgotten about that one. So, because all of them are taller than Lamptey, they're likely, because you know the English like them big.
Yeah.
But this boy, the way he plays, and you're seeing him, just saw him briefly on the...
Those are his clips and highlights.
Absolutely phenomenal. And I'm just hoping we do go find...
He's electric, isn't he?
He's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And we remember how, I mean, he tore through he was the toast of everybody every weekend.
Absolutely.
There were stories because he was that good. Even here he was at Chelsea before he made the move to Brighton, and then, you know, Brighton got him. And he mentioned that he made the move. He made the move because he wanted more playing time. Mm-hmm. And indeed.
And he did get more playing time.
Yeah. And everybody seems to think that he wouldn't last 2 more years or even 1 more year at Brighton, you know, because he's going to...
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, to me, he's the revelation, at least from the January to the end of the season, which was sometime in August.
Yeah. So that was it. £238 million was spent in the Premier League, you know, in the transfer window. And that was one of the key things we saw in the Joy Sports transfer window show also. But so far we have been a bit biased towards football, even though we've added the grim bit of Kobe Bryant. Let's come locally to basketball in Ghana, because January is usually the month where we have the biggest gathering of basketball aficionados. They call it Sprite Bowl. And this year, some very interesting news came on. And let's leave you with a clip. This was from us here at Joy Sports.
Are you ready?
So the Multimedia Group was a media sponsor for this event, and so we had exclusive coverage of all their stuff. And it was interesting because Shamar beat St. Louis to the title. But this is another thing that was interesting that happened. You might recall that Ketabusco beat Infantipim in the final, only for us to hear 2 days later, pictures emerged in this social media age that one of the key players of Ketabusco, who had shaved and was looking young, was actually an elderly man who was a basketball trainer in Lomé. And he was not a student of Ketabusco. Yes. People went to find his pictures on Instagram. They brought it to life and used it as evidence. And so Ketabusco was stripped of the title, and Infantipim were given the title of champions of Sprite Bowl 2020. So that was just by the way. That was really interesting. Yalsechi and the crew. But Shamar, you know, in the girls' edition, beat St. Louis, because St. Louis has been a dominant force when you look at the schools from Kumasi and all that. Shamar surprised them and won. It was their first time as well, and that is what happened. Ketabusco, if they had won, would have been the first time they had won also.
So age cheating.
Age cheating was the problem.
Oh, no, seriously. You know, it reminds me of something that the great, not the great, but either Bisa side of Super Sports, you know, he was on the panel. You've been there.
Soccer Africa.
Yeah, and he said that they invited 26 or 27 players to the Nigerian under 17, and then at that time the new so-called MRI had come, and they went and told the boys, hey, if any of you are above 70, please leave the camp. Said the following morning when they got up, 20 of the 26 had left. So there you are, age cheating.
All right, half an hour gone. Carl, we've given him the time to, give us a bit of history like he is. But let me bring in my guys here as well. And I'm sure Hans will have something to say about the age cheating fracas that happened. Hansinovic, hi. Orekwamofo, hi.
Hi, Gary.
Hans, let me go pigeon. You the kind of story, right? You the kind of story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for a long time we thought that age cheating only, existed in football, but we're all taken aback. I mean, initially we thought that this could probably be one of those
sour grapes
social media pranks, But as the days went on, we realized that this was actually serious, and I did not, for nothing at all, it opened our eye to a certain reality that we need to structure things or certain things properly when it comes to local competitions as well, especially competitions where there are cut-off points for ages or age-based categories competitions. And so, I mean, rather bizarre, really, because you don't think that basketball will be much of a big deal in this country for people to even think about going to bring in an overage player from Lome. But hey, I guess it's one of the things that 2022 to us, apart from COVID-19, of course.
All right, Eriko, I'll come to you briefly, but my producer has just whispered to me that the way we are sharing the time, we might not finish 2020, and we have to finish 2020 before the show is done. So these were some of the highlights of January. Please, let's go down the prompter. Let's get an idea of whether we are done with January. The last thing was that we had Gusa Games. I'll just talk about it. Now, the Gusa Games was also partly sponsored in terms of the media by the Multimedia Group, and George was there, I remember. He brought us the finale. You remember the University of Cape Coast, as they usually do, they dominated. And for the 8th year in a row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they won more medals than anyone else. They won 64 medals. So this one, we saw Azamati Benjamin Kweku. Here, let's hear him speaking before. This is before he went to the United States.
Looking at breaking the Bisa record. So to in my mind, I was thinking of breaking the Bisa record.
Yeah. 10-6-0, win assisted. Are you excited or not?
Well, I'm not excited.
Not excited about that, certainly. So that's the part that you're not happy about. It's probably, he's got a shock at it. 10.60. What are you thinking? You thought it was about?
Around 10-2.
10-2.
I think it's a headwind.
So it's a headwind.
Azamati, he's not in Ghana now. It was right after. In fact, at the time of the Gusa Games, he had already gotten a scholarship to go abroad, and so he was just warming up and blazing. So they had an interhouse in Legon as well, and he just killed them.
What a time to go abroad.
What?
What a time to go abroad when universities were closed to. Wow.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So that is for January, and then we are now going to race. So if you want us to go back to any month, please just hit us up on Twitter and we go. Now, in February, so many things happen. We'll take it quickly. Martin Braithwaite makes the shock move to Barcelona. And I'll let you take this as well. Remind us of why it was so surprising for him to go to Barca and why people felt Barca were cheating the system.
Well, there's a specific clause in La Liga that says that if you do get a long-term injury and you are short on players on a specific position, you would be able to acquire a player on the market who is only in La Liga. And even if it's not the transfer window yet. And that's what we did see with Martin Braithwaite, Barcelona going to Leganes, who were struggling to maintain their position in La Liga and not get relegated. And Braithwaite at that point was their top scorer in that season. And Barcelona certainly are a big club, and Braithwaite couldn't say no. He said that was his dream club. And so Barcelona got the chance to buy Braithwaite from Leganes. But where the controversy came in was a little bit of a flaw in the rule, because although they shortchanged Leganes couldn't go into the market because the rule said that it's not the transfer window. So it was Barcelona who benefited from that, and Leganes themselves were not very happy with that. But
such a rubbish rule, eh?
Yeah, it's just all part of power play in football, and Barcelona really exercising their muscle. And, they were a player who couldn't even play in the Champions League due to Dembele's injury. But I just thought it was a bit funny because Barcelona had a very thin team. They knew that they were just one injury away from, being very desperate for players to start games, especially up front. And they decided not to buy in January. And then right after the transfer window closed, Dembele gets a long-term injury. And so they have to go into the market. And they had to bear the wound of their decision. But hey, that's a route that they were able to exploit. And so Braithwaite, he's still amongst the ranks of Barcelona players.
Yeah. Interesting. So let's come into the studio. I've got the man who trains the Infantsipim basketball team, Mr. Apia. Shout out to you. He just messaged me that he's watching and he says, "Good evening, Gary. I'm watching your program. Keita Busco was stripped of the title, but the organizers did not give Infantsipim the title, as you mentioned on the show. It's not fair at all. Mr. Apia is the head of department for the sports department at Infantsipim School."
Who are the organizers?
Right Multimedia.
Then I find it totally and absolutely wrong.
Yeah, we'll sort that out later. But this is why we do reviews, because in Ghana, we like Famanyame and things go. But as we've mentioned it, I'm sure Yaosechi is a very reputable man. And so as Mr. Apia has complained, I'm sure he's going to mention it as well. Jay also says on my WhatsApp that we are now in January. By the time we get to December, it will be 12 a.m. Trust me, we'll finish it all. Hans is here. Now, the next story in February is that Kevin Prince Boateng signed for another club, Besiktas this time it was, and it was his 12th club. He would move on later to another club, this year, but Kevin Prince Boateng also made a move, and that was a big story for Ghanaians in January. Now, another story in February was that the FIFA president, Infantino, started his politics with African football. He started by saying that the AFCON is not a tournament that needs the kind of attention it's being given in January. He wants to move to the summer. He says that African football is also improving. Another story in February, and I know we are moving quite quickly, and was of quite an importance, was that finally Henry Asante-Twum was appointed GFA Communications Manager, because when Keto Kraku was campaigning, he was one of the key members of his campaign team, and it was widely expected that he would immediately be given the job. Remember that the context was that Tamimu Issa, who had for about 14 years been in that position, was said to have been in a shaky position when it came to being the communications manager. Tamimu, as you might recall, resigned, paving way for Henry Asante-Twum to become the GFA communications manager. Don't ask me about the politics of that. I'll leave that to you. Also, it was in the same month that Asante Kotoko and Aduana Stars played a Ghana Premier League game with 10 men each. Now, the context of this game was that apparently Asante Kotoko and Aduana were both told by spiritualists that if they played with 11 men, they'll lose. So they both played with 10 men. In the end, Asante Kotoko lost because Aduana Stars scored a last-minute goal by 1-0. Also, in February, let me see that last story before it rolls away. Jordan Ayew scored the stunning goal versus West Ham in December 2019, but it was in February that it was shortlisted for goal of the season. You remember that goal? I do. And we'd like to show you that goal, but because we are streaming this live on Facebook, if we show it, the Premier League are going to block us, so we will not be able to show you that goal. But remember, he took the ball, slalom through the West Ham defense, and then pirouetted before dinking it past the goalkeeper. Amazing goal. So can we go to March? Carl, if I ask you about March 2020 in Ghana, what comes to mind?
I'm not too sure whether it's March 2020 in Ghana. I think it's March 2020 in the world.
No, not the world, because the world was in December 2019.
No, I'm saying because the COVID struck.
Yes.
And remember that all sports virtually stopped around March.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And so the last match to be played in England was March 2nd or March 3rd. Mm-hmm. Liverpool against Atletico Madrid.
Yes.
And then bam.
Bam.
So for March 2020, the world, not just Ghana, everything was thrown out of the window.
Right. So the first case of COVID-19 worldwide in the records, if you check the New York Times at least, and that's where I'm sourcing it from, came right about in the final week of December. That's when the first official case, because China kept playing cat and mouse with the rest of the world about the official status. But it was on March 12 that Ghana reported the first case. And then, very soon after, the Ghana Football Association suspended all football competitions due to COVID-19. Hans, let me bring you in here. I remember you and I and George and the others were on Joy First Take, arguing about whether it was a good decision for the league to be cancelled or not. You remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. I do remember, and at the time, I felt that, you know, if you look at conditions around the world and if you look at our own preparedness, there were some questions over how prepared we were. There were some questions over, you know, if indeed we are going to be expected to continue the competition at a later date, what measures are going to be put in place to ensure that we're observing all the protocols and all of that. Also, you know, given the fact that we didn't know when we're even going to resume, I felt it was best if, you know, the clubs are told that, look, let's just forget about this season and prepare for the coming one. The uncertainty for me at the time was just too much. And in the end, you know, it proved to be so. I mean, we waited and waited, but eventually we had to admit that, look, we simply couldn't go on with the season.
Great. All right, cool. We move on to the next thing because, I mean, by the time the Ghana Football Association had suspended football, there was a small matter of swimming also happening. I remember you covered Abeku Jackson quite thoroughly in a feature and all that. Ghana hosted the 7th, basically, African Cup of Nations for swimming. They call it Zone 2, senior swimming, and Abeku Jackson broke the records. Let's look at the insert and we go to Riku for that as well.
History has been made for Ghana swimming. Dr. Owusu Ansan, representing the Minister of Youth and Sports, officially launched the Ghana 7th edition swimming championship staged in Ghana. Prior to this, the session has started in the morning with swimmers breaking records and setting new ones. Incredible stories being told by young swimmers who seek to become the next Michael Phelps. One of such swimmers is Senegalese Sebastian Kuma, breaking a record he set himself with a time of 1 minute 42 seconds in 200 meters. But Abeku Jackson, whom we have mentioned, that set a new record for Ghana swimming with a time of 53.93 seconds in the 100 meters butterfly, told Joy Sports the journey has just begun. Tokyo 2020 is a focal point that he seeks to achieve.
Yeah, it's on course. Like I said, breaking this record already put me on the map to Tokyo. We're looking forward to dropping more seconds to come. We're looking forward to going out there in Tokyo 2020 to give out my best shot. Like I always say, I set targets for myself this meet. I made a target, and my next target, I'm going to set it but when I get back home.
Of course, 2020 did not happen. It's scheduled to happen some other time. And even then, unless God.
You have big question marks as far as that one is concerned. They haven't even decided as to whether they will allow fans in, if fans will come in at all, and if fans will come in, how many will come in.
Yeah.
And then there is the new variant of the virus. People will be counting their chickens if they are just going to assume it's going to be happening.
The new dates for Tokyo 2020 is July 2021, and that's what we are expecting. Very cool. Briefly, I want this show to be diverse, so I want you to touch on this swimming. You interviewed Abeku Jackson quite extensively, and you were with him this year. Your thoughts on how his dream of going to Tokyo might have been shattered by everything that happened?
Well, yeah, for him, he spoke about how he went to the 2016 Olympics hosted in Rio, and how he thought that was a learning experience for him. He thought, he could have worked on certain aspects, but he was very young at that time, around 16 or so, and for a young person of that, at that stage, representing Ghana in a competition that we usually do not have a lot of swimmers, representing us competitively at the Olympic stage. So it was a learning experience, but from what he was saying, 2020 was more of a time where he wanted to go in and really write his name in the history books. And if you look at, the trajectory from the time that he made at the Ghana swimming competition that they did have in Ghana here, initially, when he ended the race, his whole technical team and the coach ran to him and they were celebrating, thinking that he had made the qualification time, but he was just about 0.04 away after, subsequent checks. And but he wasn't worried because there was still one more open to be done in South Africa. And he was so confident that with his training and how far he's come this year, he was certainly going to make the Tokyo time as the open that was going to take place in South Africa. Unfortunately, COVID-19 intensified and that competition did not come on. But then I spoke to him again after the competition, months after, when the president did lift the ban on non-contact sports and swimming had resumed. And he was also very confident, and he said that he had been working in the gym, doing a lot of cardio, even when he wasn't swimming. So he's looking forward to continuing his good performances, and now he feels he has more time to prepare for Tokyo 2020. So he's certainly going to be there. Right.
Tokyo 2020 will maintain its name for brand purposes, and even though it will be held in 2021. So yeah, that's it. Let's move to, in April, nothing happened because we're all at home. And you will recall we did programs from home and so on and so forth.
A fantastic program. The one you did with...
We will come to that.
Okay.
We will come to that. Hans, we are entering your territory because in May, April, pretty much nothing happened. We were just, doing stay-at-home challenge and all that. Hans, in May, we had Isaac Dogbe losing again to Navarrete. Over to you. We have some insights on that. So, Hans, you can speak over that. Speak, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you looked at how the first fight against Navarrete went, I thought at the time, and I did write a piece to that effect, that taking the rematch immediately was going to be a mistake because of just how dominant Navarrete was. It was clear that he was 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of Isaac Dogbe. I felt it was important for him to, look at Navarrete critically, get a couple of tune-up fights, and then really decide if he wanted that rematch. Because looking at how the first fight went, you could tell that it was almost impossible that he was going to be beating, Emmanuel Navarrete. But of course, he did, immediately go back to it, and the outcome didn't really surprise me. But credit to him, he's managed to take a step back. He's taking stock of how his career had gone. He'd made certain tough calls in terms of the sort of trainer he wanted in his corner. He settled on a trainer now. We saw his fight against Avalos, what we are watching now on our screens. And
yeah.
I thought that he looked sharper. You can talk about the quality of opponent, but you also have to look at the work that Dogbe did on the night. And I think that he looks like a boxer who's learned lessons from those 2 defeats against Navarrete. And I've said it time and time again that, look, it's not a catastrophe by any stretch. Those 2 defeats against Navarrete, he can always bounce back. It just so happens that the division that he operates in between the super bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight divisions has become so competitive, very, very competitive. It becomes, very difficult for me to see Isaac Dogbe win a title very soon. It could happen. I think that he has a chance of being a 2-time world champion, but it's going to be a very, very difficult road. To his credit, I think he's making the right decisions this time around, and I hope that he stays on track with his training and, most importantly, his decision-making.
So at this time, let me give you some context. Things were shutting down around the world. Many areas of the world were going under lockdown, but certain areas were open. So you had the situation where even in the US, certain states, because of their federated system of governance, were not shut down. And so Isaac obviously was able to fight and all that. But here in Ghana, things were slowing down, which comes the part where Joy Sports started dominating the airwaves with a series of interviews, especially on the Joy Sports link. Nathaniel Atto did an amazing job, and we are going to see some of them right now, interviewing Sami Kufuor, Lai Kingston, Stephen Appiah. These were some of the interviews we saw as well. And let's get some of the sound bites from Lai Kingston in one of those interviews.
A bit. My time will be my brother, Richard Kingston.
In post?
In post, yeah. And John Pencil, Ansedu Sape, John Mensah, Ricardo. Then when you come to the midfield, we have Michael Essien, Stephen Appiah, Ghana, we play 4-4-2. Michael Essien, Stephen Appiah, me on the right, Sule Mutari on the left. Then we have Matthew Amwa and Asamoah Gyan.
Great.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough.
A bit disturbing.
Okay.
For the NC, I was an NC member. And through our side, to the coach, to the both players, we need to come to a compromise and talk about the situation and so on. But I could see some people are hurt somewhere. You could see that Asamoah was really hurt about this whole situation. But how to manage the situation was the key.
Do you think it's been managed well? Do you think the NC managed it well?
Well, even
it
goes all the way to the president.
Okay.
So NC has become a limited. You understand? NC has nothing more to say about it. That's why the old man comes in and spoke to the two of the players.
Great interviews. And I remember the kind of traction it gave, some of the things they brought out. And I have to give a big shout out to GTV. It was around the period that they did the huge interview with Abedi Pele, which I think is one of the best interviews in Ghanaian sports this year. They got him for about 4 or 5 hours.
I was on that.
You were on that show. Carl was on that show as well. And Abedi famously wept.
Yeah, he wept because Adika. He hadn't seen Adika for God knows how many years.
The man who discovered him.
Absolutely. And Adika, at the time that Abedi was playing for Green Hill Primary, I was then in Achimota Secondary. And Achimota Secondary, Achimota Primary, I was on the Western Compound, and it was so close. So they used to have matches with Green Hill Primary, and they go and watch. And I remember the late Samuel Kaito of the Graphic.
Terrific writer.
Yeah, he was my mate. He saw him and said, Carl, I've seen this player. He could be great too. I said, what do you mean? So one Sunday, just get up and go and watch. And boy, and at that time, we started noticing that Adika was always turning up. Ah, boy.
So that was those amount of interviews, because of COVID, it brought out a lot of superstars who hitherto would not speak. Remember the Tony Yeboah one as well.
Remember the DK Poison one, which has led to the money being refunded?
Nathaniel Ato's work and the DK Poison and the Tony Yeboah and all that. So we are currently in May, and we said we will finish December by 10:30. We will. Trust me. Let's go for our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll remind you of the show on PM Express, just like this one, that literally broke the internet. Thank you for staying with us on PM Express. Today is a sporting edition, and more precisely, we are looking back at this year, 2020. It will be remembered for many things. Carl Tufuo says that the one word he will use to describe 2020 is disaster. The word I chose was strange. At a point, we'll open the phone lines. We'll definitely do that for you to let us know what you remember of this year, and if we have jogged enough memories for you to want this year to go or end quickly, as it will in about 48 hours, or you want more of 2020. I'm Gary Al Smith. I'm here with Carl Tufuo. Also, via Zoom, and joining us are Hans Mensah Ando of the Joy Sports team, and also Oreku Ampofo, also of the Joy Sports team. They haven't spoken much, but they will, and we'll talk a bit more about some of the other things. We are in the month of May, and May finished for us here at Joy Sports with this one, Football After COVID, where we assembled Peter Drury and Robert Marawa, Carol Chabalala, and had a really, really good show. Kwabena Yeboah as well. And it was really good. I mean, John Champion up there. So how do we say it? Clockwise from top left.
If you take the top quadrant.
Yes. So
left quadrant.
Yes.
Peter Drury,
John Champion,
Robert Marawa, and Kwabena.
So clockwise from top left, Peter. At this point, now let me tell you something. My producer will remember, he was feeling sleepy at this point. because we had said we were going to do an hour, and then we did an hour and 30 minutes. He had been going around and walking around the English countryside the whole day, and he was tired. So look at Peter Drury. He was he was sleeping.
He would be tired, wouldn't he?
Yes. But he would email me.
Also an hour ahead of us.
Good. And that was the thing. Remember, because of the GMT and the BST, they were an hour ahead of us. Now, the interesting thing was that just before we came on air, our Zoom line completely dropped. And it wasn't working. I remember somebody told me that my house people were at work, and I said, no, my house people, they are not like that. So Peter would email me the following day and say that it was one of the best shows he had been on, because during the lockdown period, he had done such appearances across the world because he was free and he was available. So, yeah, this was football after COVID.
Yeah, having him in particular in terms of commentary, for me, I rate him as my number 3 commentator of all time. He's brilliant. The way he uses words, and I keep on telling my students at JIJ that if you want to do that, listen to him. There's adequate preparation in there. And for me, when he says something, you need to think. It's not a case of just shouting and it's a goal and that sort of thing and goal number 1, whatever it's supposed to be. But he's done so much research that the data is with him. And so he knows when to, and obviously it's happened over years. So it was a privilege and absolutely fabulous seeing him in there. I thought that John Champion is understandable because they are within the Premier League, but Champion was more or less like the US face of it. Mm-hmm. I really thought maybe, as a little criticism, you could have got either John Motson of the BBC to join up with Drury. I mean, because Motson for me was clearly number 1. And then Martin Tyler of Sky. Awesome. All right, so we tried to get John Motson, and for older generations, John Motson was virtually the voice of the FA Cup. Not only the FA Cup, for the BBC. For
the BBC, yeah.
Brilliant.
Motti, they call him, and John Motson was.
And you worked with him, but I mean, at least you met him up when you were doing your stint with BBC and going up and down. Phenomenal.
John Motson, his daughter said that her father would be tired, and so the time we gave was not going to be
quite true, because he is in his 70s.
He is in his 70s now, yes. So that was why we couldn't get him. But Carl says that he's been telling his students to take after Peter Drury. One of his students has hit us up on Twitter. Ecole Plange says, my lecturer told me I'll do great, and that has been my motivation since. You know him.
I can't remember that.
You have so many students.
1,000,001. I've been doing this thing for like 8 years, so you can imagine each classroom is about 400. Multiply.
Right. So, Ecole Planche, that's your lecturer. You be a good boy. I'm sure schools are going to reopen soon and you'll see him soon as well. So that's for May. In June, we were hit with the news that the Africa Cup of Nations has been postponed from 2021 to 2022, but will still be held in Cameroon. We were also told at that meeting that the CHAN has been moved from 2020 to 2021, but now, between you and myself, I don't think that's going to happen. The Women's AFCON was cancelled altogether. And so that was the big news from that month as well. And then that month was the birthday of one of the best commentators, as we are on the subject, in the history of this country. And we were absolutely thrilled, and it was an absolute honor for the Joy Sports team to work with his son and surprise him. I was nowhere near being born, and neither were my colleagues here, George Ado Jr. and Muftau Nabila. So we are from the Joy Sports team, and today we are on a very naughty mission. Hello, Uncle Joe! Hello. Happy birthday to you! Hooray! And for the benefit of the cameras, how old are you now?
I am 93 years.
So this is our small cake we've brought to you. They all knew about it, but you didn't know. Yes. So, Grandpa, would you say just a few words?
Well, life on this planet, we count life on this planet in years. And I should consider myself very lucky that God has spared me for 93 years. And 93 years, not uneventful, very eventful 93 years. You've given me a surprise packet. And I am very grateful to all of you. You've done very well. I didn't expect anything like this. I've never thought of it. So I thank you, and I hope you'll be around when I hit 100 years. Yeah.
On behalf of the Joy Sports team, Joy FM, Joynews, and the multimedia group, we wish our grandpa, the king of commentators and the son of all of us, an incredibly happy. Bye-bye. Over to you. Over to you, Joe Latte, and over to you, Carl Tufo. Carl was sharing something with us right now.
I mean, listen, the family came down from the UK. That's my family. Brought us to the UK, and I was, to use the English word, angry and annoyed why we come into this country. They play football and do them. Then you go to Justice here from Benjamin's house. Here he was my father's group. They would go to Ghana Club, and then suddenly the driver says, "Let's listen to commentary." And then you hear this man speaking, and then you start saying, "Now hold on a minute. This cannot be Ghana. No, it can't be. It must be somebody else. They probably got a Jamaican in there. No." And then suddenly, Joe himself, who everybody looked up to, vanished off the scene. What was it? Joe had moved on to Nigeria for greener pastures. But it helps. You know, as a master goes, another one came. And dare I say, Harry Thompson, who followed, was almost as good, if not slightly better than Joe. But the talent was there. And I had the privilege of working with Harry. And later, when Joe came back, of working with him. And I got so many things out of him. And the key thing, once again, was he said, he always does his damn research. That's something I don't see in the current breed of commentators and sport. Research, and that's what made Joe stands out, you know, within the mayor of all commentators.
Joe Latte, he will be 94 next year. Hopefully, I mean, it will be redundant if we surprise him again, but we wish him all the best and hope that he lives till 100 years. So in that month also, we had Nigeria's Victor Osieman become the most expensive African transfer of all time after he moved from Lille to Napoli for $82.8 million. Right. Then we go to August. Australian Open started in August. We started our UEFA Champions League commentary because, you know, football had started returning. We did our football return show, this time with the other commentators as well. And then we had the Joy Sports FIFA face-off where Asante Kotoko's Danlad Ibrahim beat Richard Atta. It was also in that month that Palmer and the GFA case came to the fore as well. Big deal.
Very
big deal.
Very big deal.
Palmer and the GFA.
At the end of the day, unfortunately for him, he lost. He went to the court of arbitration and it was thrown out and all. It's a lesson to all of us, isn't it? But the irony of it is that FIFA, for me, calling, how do you say it in English language? The pot calling the kettle black.
The kettle black.
My goodness, what an insult.
I know. So we move on to September, and here it starts getting loaded. September, October, November, December, because football was really starting, sport was really coming back around the world, and so there was more to talk about. Australian Open ended in September. Lamine Diack, the former head of the International Athletics Federation, was convicted of corruption and sentenced to 4 years in prison. for Russian doping and associated offenses. We had our own Kwame Eugene versus Kweju Sheldon, the FIFA face-off. Do we have footage of that? And then Danlad Ibrahim. These were a series of events to bridge the gap. So this is Danlad Ibrahim, not Kwame Eugene versus Kweju Sheldon as well. And then in September, the 26th GFA Ordinary Congress came. It dominated headlines. Now, it dominated headlines because of an important reason. It clashed with the expected Palmer verdict from CAS. So that was why. So I remember we sent reporters to Pram for this one. And then I went to Palmer's house to go and interview him, and it never happened. So that was also in September. In October, the LA Lakers won their 17th NBA title. Yeah, remember that, because LeBron James finally said that he wanted, quote unquote, his damn respect. Whether he has gotten it, we don't know. The Ghana Premier League was also about to start, so we started getting you ready. We had the Heart of Oak edition of the GPL Primer that was hosted by Hans Mensah Andor. Muftau hosted the Kotoko edition, and then we had the Omnibus. Hans, so as you are here, how did you see the general start and the vibe around the Ghana Premier League and how the media covered it? I think your sound is on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I think that people were starved of action on the local scene and were really looking forward to the start of the Ghana Premier League. I say that because of the sort of response that we got for the GPL Primer, the 2 editions, and of course the omnibus that we did for the Heart of Oak edition, which kick-started the 3 editions of the show that we had. I was surprised that at the level of engagement, especially on social media. The live stream that we had, the comments that were coming in, people rooting for their club, Accra Hearts of Oak. And then, of course, Mufta also hosted the Kotoko edition, and we had Eric Bekoe coming in and joining us in the studio. Again, the level of interaction on social media, it was clear that people really wanted to see action on the local scene. Bear in mind that over the course of the last 3 years, for one reason or the other, we've had disruptions to the local football calendar. Of course, we saw what happened with the announced documentary that meant that we had to stop playing the Ghana Premier League. The NC came in, organized the NC special competition, and then tried to play the league. And then COVID also came in, it had to be stopped. And so all manner of disruptions to the local football calendar meant that people were starved of action from Accra Hearts of Oak, from Kotoko and the other local teams. And so really great reaction and response from the fans, and I think that we've carried it all through so far in the season that we are currently seeing. The downside is that people are not able to go to the stadium to cheer on their teams and watch the games, but you can tell that people are following the action closely. They're able to watch it. When I host Fan Zone, when I host Scoreboard, the level of interaction that you get, the questions people are asking you on the street, people want to see the highlights. People are starved of action basically, and that those 3 shows that we had was a pointer to that fact.
With the GPL, the first ever on Ghanaian television transfer countdown show, where we treated it basically like we treat the European version. We did our own Sky Sports version of things. We went to Asamoah Gyan's manager to get the breaking news that he had been acquired by Legon Cities. We were told that it was up to $1 million. Do we have that interview of Oreku Ampofo there as well? Oreku, let's come to you as we look for that interview. How did it feel, being there when the story broke that the transfer management system at the Ghana Football Association had accepted the move of Asamoah Gyan from as a free agent to Legon Cities? You interviewed Sami Enim at the time.
I think it was a breath of fresh air knowing that it had finally been confirmed that one of Ghana's greatest players would be coming back to the league where he all started. But the big news from that deal as well was when the agent really did give that extra information as to how much Jan would be making in total from this transfer. And he did confirm that his player would be making more than $1 million in money and then other packages as well. He also did confirm that Matthew Kujo was involved in the deal. And he stated why, Jan chose Legon cities over Asante Kotoko. And he even had deals from all across Europe, but he chose to come to Ghana. So it was a good feeling. And, being there to report on it live as it happened certainly was one of, the highlights of the year for me personally and also for the Joy Sports team as well.
Nice one. So Ghana Premier League just about started then in the month after. So we come to November. It was supposed to start on the weekend of November 13th. The Joy Sports team was actually supposed to do the live commentary game between Hearts and Adriana Stars, or Adriana Stars versus Hearts of Oak, and then COVID struck. Guess what? We were on our way to the airport to board a flight on the Friday evening when the GFA statements came. So we were this close from a cost 90 job as it happened. But eventually the Ghana Premier League started and we started doing commentaries. For us at Joy Sports, we wanted to make a statement, and so for the first time in the 25-year history of the station, we were able to put away our news night, which we don't joke with, to do Ghana Premier League commentary. And we did it 3 times, for a Hearts game, for a Kotoko game, and one other game as well. Carl, what do you think of that?
Well, it's ideas, isn't it? The market is so competitive, it's so fluid. So in order to stand out, you've got to come up with new, different ideas. And if you don't do that, then you just swallow in mediocrity. So you see what somebody's doing, take it up and move it on. And that's what you guys did here as far as the station is concerned.
Right. It was also the month where Asante Kotoko would start their dreams of going into Africa. It was also the month that Hearts of Oak celebrated their birthday, 109. And for the first time on television, we were able to get a documentary that gave us the history of the Hearts of Oak anthem. We called it Phobia's Soul.
Football chants are meant to support clubs, but they have become de facto war chants. The chants reverberating around the stadium means so much to players, fans, and neutrals alike. The Phobia anthem carries the very soul of Accra Hearts of Oak, and you don't need to be told. You must experience it.
Just listening to the words, say, arise, arrest. We are the famous. If you said you are famous, you need to do something. Normally, when we have a corner kick, and then you hear the supporters, Phobia. That's what I'm saying. So as a player, when you hear those things, you're like, hey, then expectation is around me. That's what I'm saying.
Anytime we sing that song, there's an ancestral spirit. George, even we ourselves, when we are singing, you have this kind of zeal. Yeah. It gives you that spirit. Yeah. The spirit comes for you to sing, and when you sing, you see that spirit is reflecting, it's manifesting on the pitch.
I remember when we were about to play against Kotoko. So whilst in the dressing room, I came close to the tunnel.
Emmanuel Nete speaking there. I mean, you saw the famous 64 Battalion generation, but in this month also, we had Lewis Hamilton winning a historic 7th world title, tying legendary Michael Schumacher's record, and then, of course, later beating it. In this month also, the Blackstars beat Sudan at home and lost the reverse fixture. In this month also, the legendary Diego Maradona died at 60. The Blackstars 10 series was brought to us. Oreku Ampofo did that. So let's take a look at it briefly as we open the phone lines so you can start calling with 13 minutes to finish the show. The Blackstars 10 was our series that looked at what we thought. Oreku is there. Why am I talking when he's there? Oreku.
Yeah, so the Blackstars 10 series looked at the performance of Blackstars players in the past 20 years as we rounded up on, the second decade in the year 2000. And we just basically highlighted the 10 best and most influential players in the Blackstars. The aim of this series was not to cause controversy online, but was rather to celebrate our legends who we think deserve plaudits for the work that they've done for the Blackstars. And it was really interesting to see some of the reactions that some players did get. I remember we named Christian Achu ahead of Michael Essien, and a lot of people did not, receive that pretty well.
So Oreku, I mean, hold on. We have it here. Yeah, let's go through it. So we had Asamoah Gyan as our number one Blackstars player of all time. Stephen Appiah as number 2. It was about the last 20 years.
Yeah, last 20
Blackstars players for the last 20 years, just to be clear, not of all time. And then Stephen Appiah number 2. We had, I think Michael Essien was number 3. Wasn't it?
No, Essien was way down there. Essien was way down. I think about 8th or 7th, yeah.
Caused quite a bit of controversy, but it was all fun. I mean, and that's the aim of lists like this.
Well, I was given a contract 3 years ago to name the greatest Ghanaian player of all time, to celebrate or commemorate Ghana's 60th anniversary. And I cracked my brains and went and told the organizers that it can't be done. On the contrary, what I'll do is this. I'll take the best since 57 to 67, 67 to 77, so the 10-year period. So 57 to 67, don't forget, I was born the latter part, so it's a case of reading. Okay, so I took Osei Kofi there. From 67 to 77, I took Polo. From 77 to 87, I took Razak. From 87 to 97, I took Abedi Pele. From 97 to 2007, I took Osei Kufuor. And from 2007 to 2017, I took Asamoah Gyan.
There you go. So that's one list, and we also curated this list there. It really was fun. Yeah, Hans.
Now, there was something else we did much earlier in the year with the mythical matchup, and I'd love Carl to have a take on it, where we had the 1992 Blackstars AFCON squad that lost to Cote d'Ivoire against the 2010 World Cup squad that lost to Uruguay, and
all hypothetical,
people debating which team would have won a game of football. I'd love to pick Carl's thoughts on that.
Hans, I'm not going to be pulled into a corner and get myself in a spot of bother. What I'm going to say is that the 92 team was phenomenal. That's true. But there are one or two of the 2010 squad that would walk themselves into the team. Now, I know that Essien was not part of it because he was injured. But at that time, Essien was the best box-to-box midfielder in the world. So for me, he would have walked into the 92 team. The 92 squad. Okay, that's one. I think Richard Kingston would have probably gone in ahead of Eddie Ansah because Eddie Ansah was quite erratic. So that for me was another one that I'll clear up. I think if I can name Asamoah Gyan as the best between 2007 and 2017, he would probably get in just ahead of Prince Polly, alongside Tony Yeboah. So clearly, there are one or two players in that squad that I would definitely have got in that squad.
Right, so that brings us to the end of November. As for December, I'll go through the list while opening the phone lines because we have about 8 minutes. The phone lines and get your thoughts on what has been a year of activity. We've tried to touch on, the various things that are happening locally and internationally. Forgive us if we have been unable to name some of the things that you would want, but this is an opportunity. In December, one of the topical things has been the return of Martha Bisa, the young lady who won us gold in the Olympics, in the Youth Olympics. She's gone to school and she's still having a grudge, or more accurately, the Ghana Athletics Association are still, having their grudge with her because they want her to apologize for apparently, what was it again? Accusing them of extortion at the time that she wanted a scholarship. Apparently, she said at the time that they wanted 7,000 cedis from her before facilitating their scholarship. And so let's hear from her as she spoke to us.
No matter where I am a Ghanaian. So if I say I'm going to come back and run, I'm still running. I'm training. Whatever that comes on, I'll be there. Anything that happens, I'll be running for Ghana. But any decision that comes, I'll still be there. So it's 50-50. Anything can happen positively.
Yeah, anything can happen, and that's because of there's a little issue that you have with the GAA. What's the latest with that? Has that been sorted out?
Talking about the GAA, it stayed the same. Nothing has changed. Okay, I don't even think about the GAA because they are the GAA and Bisa. So I have nothing to think about GAA. It's the past. They always be my past.
So what are your plans now, with the whole, you're separating yourself from the GAA. Is there a possibility that the two of you would come to a consensus and see you represent Ghana? Because that's what you truly stand for, according to what you are saying.
I have never separated myself from the GAA. They don't want me to be part of the association.
Opinion? I mean, where Ghana is concerned, there's Ghana Premier League action continuing, but 0302-211-691, 0302-211-692, 0302-211-691, 0302-211-692. A year in review has tried very hard to add everything from Ghana and across the world. Is there anything we have missed in the top stories? And I'm sure some people will say that Champions League. Who won the Champions?
Well.
Premier League. I know that
about the Champions League and Premier League. Even you forgot about the key one: Nadal equaling Federer's record of 20 Grand Slams.
Yeah. And I made a mistake. I said Australian Open. That should have been US Open. Obviously, should have been US Open. But yes, Nadal, Federer, Djokovic having his issues and his meltdown. Mm-hmm. That also happened this year. Kweku from Takwa. Hi, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the year in review.
Good evening to Honorable Carl.
Yeah, good evening, Kweku.
It's been a while I heard from him.
Yeah.
Yes. One thing I will never forget is when the GFA took a decision to start the Ghana Premier League in the midst of all the brouhaha concerning COVID in Ghana here. I think I was one of the people against it. I thought it was too early for them to start. I thought they could have held on to that decision because of the nature of the way because at that time we had no sponsor to even telecast, our league matches. So getting access to it was a problem for us as compared to the European teams or the European tournament. So we wanted them to wait a little bit for fans to go in. But now the impact has been very low. We have to be honest with ourselves. The impact has been very low since we started. Hardly get people to go to the stadiums. How do you get people to patronize? Even with jerseys as of now, some teams don't even have jerseys.
Okay, Kweku, because of time, your point is well made, but you are basically saying that you are happy that the league started despite the COVID and everything, and we get that. Thank you very much. We have to make it snappy. Tornado, you are calling us from Adidome. Hi, good evening. Tornado.
Yeah.
Yes, talk to me.
Good evening. Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Hello? Yeah.
Let's move on. 0302-211-691. When you call, please turn off the volume on your television, right? So that we can hear you quite quickly. So we are reviewing the year, and then also in December, let me just remind you of some of the things that happened in this month. Ghana has won the WAFU Under-20 to qualify for the U20 AFCON. That is going to happen in Mauritania, God willing, next year. Abdul Latif,
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Where are you calling from?
Good evening. I'm calling from Bimpurugu, Northeast precisely. Nice
to meet you. Talk to me.
Nice. Hello?
Talk to me, yes.
2020, a lot of things haven't happened, but we give thanks to the Almighty God that even though with all those difficulties, Ghana Premier League was back in session, and then, we hope for the best. But then I really thank you so much for, having all those things on record and then giving them out this very evening. There were some of them that we nearly even forgot. But then with this very program, we've recalled all of them. So thanks to you so much.
And that's the aim of this show. Thank you very much. Desmond from Suhum, you should be our penultimate caller. Hi. Good evening, Desmond.
Good evening, Uncle Gary.
Uncle Desmond, how are you? Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, so I want to talk about the ban that was given to our CAF president.
Yes, Ahmad.
And in fact, I think CAF has its own issues, and then a whole lot of things, and then this issue also cropping up somewhere getting to the end of the year. I think it was a very bad situation for African football.
That happened in November. And that was just when the elections they had finished filing their nominations for the elections, and so he was taken out, meaning that he can't take part in the elections as well. Desmond, thank you. Nee from Achimota, you should be my final caller. Hello, Nee.
Yeah, hello. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening.
Gary, you repeat the whole year and forgot that Liverpool won the league this year.
I knew you were going to say that. Yes, so you have mentioned that, and that's why you are part of the show.
I'm just calling to remind you that it's a very, very important milestone.
Very, very important. Are you going to win again this year or next year?
Let's see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes indeed. And we'll see how it goes for Mr. Kaltufo. Thank you very much for spending your time with us.
It's been a privilege, hasn't it?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's been all right being here.
Yeah. He's been mellow today. It's very mellow today. He's not been bombastic. But I've got a couple of comments asking, are you still doing your show on GTV Sundays?
Yes, but there's been a short break. Yeah, but we won't run away. If there are controversial decisions to be discussed, there ain't nobody who's going to prevent me from having a discussion on it.
The truth for 30 seconds to Oreku, 30 seconds to Hans. Hans, please begin. That's according to my producer. Go.
Well, Carl has held back on the bombs, but let me issue one before we go. I think that Ghana boxing has had a stinker, and I'm hoping that in 2021 we are going to be correcting it. Ghanaian boxers losing via first round and second round TKOs is not something that does justice to the legacies of Azuma Nelson and DK Poison. So I think that's something that we need to correct. I'm just hoping that overall Ghana sports, will have an excellent 2021.
Oreku, final 25 minutes. Hans has taken 5 minutes of your time. 5 seconds of your time, sorry.
Well, unfortunately, another year has gone by without the completion of the Ghana Premier League season. And this time it wasn't for corruption issues, but circumstances which are related to health and beyond our control. It's my prayer and hope that 2021 would finally see a winner of the Ghana Premier League and not be referencing the Ghana as the defending champions.
Thank you very much, everybody who took part in this show, to the production team as well. It's been a pleasure doing this in 2020. We've wanted to do this for years. Finally, we have. Bye-bye, and let's see you in 2021 with a great sporting. I'm Gary Al Smith. Good night.